Hey, this is Ryan from Disruptarian Radio. So this is the site that I came multiple times to meet with Jennifer Ruggles, once with David Tsai, and some of the Hawaiian Kingdom people at the Kiao Community Center. So one thing that I've learned, and something that I was not completely aware of, even though I've heard of it, I didn't really investigate a lot of it until recently. In 1920, I believe it was when it was, the Department of Hawaiian Homelands was created, and this was to give genetic Hawaiians with 50% or more DNA of Hawaiian heritage, their land that they had reserved 200,000 acres in the islands of Hawaii, Maui, Molokai, Lanai, Oahu, and Kauai. So those islands have this reservation of 200,000 acres, and roughly 10,000 acres or 10,000 leases have been given, and improvements have been made, and so on and so forth. But there's roughly 40,000 people still on the list, and that's what a lot of this TMT fight is about. That people are protesting this telescope, which is, a very relatively non-polluting, non-impactful, and high-producing industry. Astronomy employs more than 1,400 people in Hawaii. And it's not like tourism where, people come, they party, they leave trash around, they leave, and then Hawaii has to clean up the mess. Astronomy is very clean, very safe. There's a lot of rumors that it's going to use nuclear power. It's not. There's rumors that it's going to use mercury. It's not. I mean, you have to look up the environmental impact survey to find these details. But no, it is absolutely not going to use mercury. It is absolutely not going to use nuclear power. There's no waste being left on the mana. It's a closed loop system, so water is brought in, waste is hauled out, nothing is left on the mana, nothing is taken from the mauna. So the promises here, I think, are a little racist. Like, it's similar to these Native American reservations, right? Where Native Americans for 9,000 years genocide each other. Many of the tribes, hundreds of the tribes, killed each other to take that land from another tribe, and then another tribe would take that land from another tribe. So the original occupants of these lands in America, and as well as Hawaii, aren't even owned by the original people. For example, here in Hawaii, Taiwanese people from Southeast Asia were here before the Tahitians came. Modern day Hawaiians are, 70% of the modern day Hawaiians' DNA is Tahitian DNA. They came here and conquered the Taiwanese, who found these islands first, and took it from them. And then for 900 years, roughly 700 years anyway, there was war after war, dozens of wars, where Oahu would come and defeat Hawaii, Hawaii would go and defeat Oahu, and Maui would come over and fight Hawaii, and Hawaii would go over and fight Maui, and so on and so forth. And there was all these wars, and they were always conquesting to expand their borders, to expand their property, to expand their hunting grounds, to gain more power. These ali'i, these chiefs, had conquest in mind when they were fighting these battles, similar to as they claim the white man in either America or in Hawaii or wherever. Same thing. There's no difference. The original people here in Hawaii were conquered. They were Southeast Asian. They were conquered by the Tahitians. And the Tahitian people took over and treated those people they conquered as slaves. There was a caste system in Hawaii under the kapu, and the lowest caste was the slaves. And anybody could treat them poorly. There was no restriction on what you could do to these slaves that they conquered and took and enslaved. So what I'm saying is that this Hawaiian Homelands thing, I think, is very racist. Like, it includes genetic Hawaiians, which are genetically mostly Tahitians, but it doesn't include the Japanese. The Japanese were brought here by King Kal- Kalaua, I can't pronounce his name, but the king that was right before Liliuokalani, he in 1881 he went to Japan, told the Japanese to come over here. They wanted people to work in the fields, in the cane fields. So the king brought him over, raised taxes on cane and other businesses. And before that, I mean, even if you go back to the 1700s, when King Kamehameha was ill, there were 9 Japanese people that took care of King Kamehameha. So these Japanese people and many of the white people, I mean, if you look at King Kamehameha and what he did, he brought in 2 haole. He brought in a guy named John Young and a guy named Isaac Davis. Made them both chiefs, great chiefs. John Young governed the islands when King Kamehameha was away. King Kamehameha traded basically his knowledge of warfare and rifles and military equipment and ships for a chiefly title. So John Young was a great chief here in Hawaii. He's buried here in a royal grave on the island of Hawaii here on the south end. And Isaac Davis was the same. They got land, titles, and wives in exchange for their experience and their weapons and their ships. So there was the Japanese people that were here. There's the white people that were here for hundreds of years before 1920, when this Hawaiian Homelands thing was created, the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. And so, for me, why include, just genetic Hawaiians, or Tahitians as they are? Why just include only them and not the Japanese and not the white people in this land that is being given out by Hawaiian Homelands, the 200,000 acres? I mean, for me, it looks good. Like, these 200,000 acres, give those to people that are homeless, that are desperate, that are in need. Yes, it's worked in Seattle, it's worked in Salt Lake City, where they're giving free housing or next to free housing leases to people who are in vulnerable positions. That sounds good to me, but it's not just Hawaiians here that are homeless in Hawaii. There are Caucasians, there are Japanese, there are all kinds of people, Micronesians. A lot of people are suffering in Hawaii. Why make this a racist thing? So I don't agree with the law. I don't agree that it should be 50% Hawaiian DNA only, or above 50% Hawaiian DNA that gets these Hawaiian homelands. I think that anybody who's in desperate need and homeless should get these lands, and they should give it out quickly. They've been dragging their feet, they've been breaking promises. So I get why these people, these protesters, are angry, but they're angry about the government not fulfilling a racist law. Like, they want this racist law fulfilled. That, to me, says they're racist. They should include everybody, not just, people of a certain genetic content, in their blood. It should be, everybody who needs, a situation improvement. And like I say, it's worked in other states, it's worked in other places to help homeless out by giving them free or next to free housing. So I don't agree with the law, but I do agree that, it's been way too long. They've had more than 50 years to deal with this. They haven't done anything really significant. They've given out 10,000 or so leases. There's 40,000 or so people on the waiting list. And I think that they should fulfill their promises. That has nothing to do with the TMT. The TMT is great for Hawaii. They've already donated $5.9 million in STEM programs and scholarships and internships. They're helping local Hawaiians. They're helping everybody. They're not taking, they're giving. I think that astronomy is good for our species. I think that, the dinosaurs died out because an asteroid hit Earth. If the dinosaurs would have had a fully functional space program, a highly functional space program, they could have deflected the asteroid that killed them. Could have sent a rocket up, blew it away long before it ever got to Earth, and they would have never, been extinct. 99% of species were extinct from that asteroid hitting. A highly functional space program will help us in the long run in many ways. Not only just learning, but also possibly defending. Anyway, that's my point. I do agree with them on the broken promises. I don't agree with them on the racism.